Well, hello everybody. My name is Roger and welcome to my channel, Rogers Reads. So today I'm doing my October wrap-up, part 1. I usually divide my wrap-up into 2 parts, sometimes 3, depending on how good of a reading month I've had. So this is part 1 of the October wrap-up. That is to say, books that I've read thus far in October. So the first book I read in October was a book entitled The Art of Invisibility by Kevin Mitnick. Now I'm going to record a full review of this book on this channel, though I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'll probably try to get to it this week. So look for that if you'd like to get more into depth in this book. But anyway, The Art of Invisibility asks the following question. What do you need to do to protect yourself both online and off, and to keep your information safe and private? Now, this book is written by one of the world's most famous hackers, Kevin Mitnick, whose extracurricular activities landed him in hot water a while back. In fact, he spent 2.5 years as a fugitive from the FBI and was wanted for hacking, unauthorized access, and I do believe wire fraud. So Mr. Mitnick has now moved on to more legal authorized hacking, and he works as a security consultant in which corporations pay him to hack into their systems and test their security. So now he works to teach people how to protect themselves and their companies in a world of malware, scammers, spammers, ransomware, hackers, government abuse, key logging software, microphones and cameras that are always on, and of course the tracking of our every move online, which we've been hearing a lot about recently in the news. So Mr. Mitnick knows what information companies collect about us, how they gather that information, how they spy at us, and in this book, he shares that knowledge. So some of Mr. Mitnick's recommendations are fairly basic, such as using strong passwords, using a password manager, and being careful to set up your home Wi-Fi using the strongest and most recent security protocols. Another thing which was really stressed in this book was the use of public Wi-Fi and how it was not designed with online banking or e-commerce in mind, meaning that it is highly insecure. So if you do have to perform financial transactions when you're away from home and on the road, you want to make sure to use your cellular data or your phone's hotspot whenever possible. So there are many more things that I learned from this book that I plan on implementing in the future. So one of the big takeaways from The Art of Invisibility was that basically there is no privacy anymore. And we live in a society where practically everything we do is tracked, monitored, and stored, sometimes for years, if not forever. But you can become less visible. But depending on how far you want to go, it's not necessarily straightforward or easy. And most of the time it is not very convenient. There are so many fantastic recommendations in this book to get started, no matter what level of privacy and invisibility you want to achieve. You know, I think that this is a super important book that everyone should read, because online security and privacy is something we should all be aware of and concerned about, and the strategies detailed in The Art of Invisibility provide the necessary guidance to get us started. So I really recommend this book. But yeah, as I mentioned, if you want to go more in depth, I am going to post a full-on review on this channel, so you might want to check that out. So the next book that I read this month was entitled The President is Missing, written by James Patterson and President Bill Clinton. Now, I actually recorded a full-on review of this book, so I haven't gotten around to posting it yet, so I'll try to get that up there in the next week or so. So this is a book that I normally wouldn't pick up, as the political thriller isn't usually a genre that I read. But when I learned that this was to be a collaboration between James Patterson and President Clinton, I figured that I'd give it a go, especially since I've heard so many great things about it. So The President is Missing revolves around the fictional President of the United States, James Duncan, who was under attack by the House Committee. In fact, the Speaker of the House and the House Committee are pushing for impeachment hearings because it has come to the country's attention that President Duncan has had contact with a terrorist organization called the Sons of Jihad, and he refuses to divulge the contents of that communication. Now, as the story unfolds, we learn that it has come to the President's attention that the Sons of Jihad is planning on releasing a devastating computer virus that will infect every computer, server, network, and electronic device in America, and in so doing will ultimately destroy the infrastructure of the United States, most likely resulting in the deaths of a lot of people, possibly even in the millions. So in order to thwart the terrorist organization's efforts, the president must go underground for a brief time during which nobody is aware of his whereabouts. Hence the title, The President is Missing. So what follows is a harrowing, mad race against the clock to figure out how to stop one of the most terrifying and debilitating cyber attacks the world has ever known, with the fate of the entire country at stake. So all in all, this was a stunning page-turner of a story involving murder, cyber terrorism, Russia, the Middle East, hackers, traitors, treason, assassins, espionage, and a life-threatening illness. So this was a 5-star read for me, and I really ended up enjoying this book. So the next book that I read this month was entitled Runebreaker by Alex R. Kaler. So this is the second book in the Runebinder Chronicles, and I was really excited when I received the ARC of this book, advanced reader copy of this book, as I really loved the first book in this series, Runebinder. So I assumed that this story would be a continuation of the first book, but it wasn't at all, which I found more than a tad disappointing. Now, the book does connect back to Runebinder briefly at the very end, but not in a very satisfying sort of way. So though it's set in the same world, Runebreaker follows a different main character named Aidan, and the entire story takes place in Scotland. No, not the entire story. Part of it takes place in London later on. So Aidan, the protagonist in this book, is a hunter just like Ten in the first book. Now, hunters attempt to liberate the world from evil howls and necromancers who have pretty much destroyed the planet. So Aidan, his magic is ruled by the element of fire, so as such, he's hot-headed, arrogant, power-hungry, and self-serving. The only thing that matters to Aidan is Aidan, and all he seems to want out of life is to rule, to be in charge, to have people follow him, worship him, no matter what the cost. And he's ready to burn down the entire world to achieve his goal and destroy anyone who stands in his way. So I really enjoyed the first book in this series, and I was super excited about reading this book. Unfortunately, I was extremely disappointed in Runebreaker. I ended up absolutely hating the main character. He was an unbelievable asshole. He was murderous, treacherous, loathsome, with not one redeeming quality. He wasn't at all the anti-hero who redeems himself by doing the right thing at the end. Nope, that never happened. Aidan is 100% asshole. Now, when he finally runs into a little bit of trouble in the story, I couldn't even muster up the tiniest bit of sympathy for him. In fact, I found myself thinking on a few occasions, oh my God, would somebody just kill him already? So this character was neither someone that I could root for, nor someone that I ended up caring about. And you know, it's nearly impossible for me to connect to a story when I hate the main protagonist, and that was the case with Runebreaker. The main character wasn't at all relatable and was wholly unlikable, which caused me not to care about the story in the least. I honestly really had to slug my way through it, and I kept putting it down and picking it back up. But yeah, this definitely was not the book for me, and I really doubted if I'm going to continue on with the series after this one. So the fourth book I read in October was entitled The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the second book in the Mistborn series, so it's difficult for me to say too much about this without giving away the first book, which was entitled Mistborn, The Final Empire. So let me just say that The Well of Ascension takes place 1 year, I believe 1 year, or is it 2 years? Well, I think it's 1 year after the events of Mistborn, the Final Empire, where the kingdom of Luthadel is still in chaos, though the current rulers are slowly getting a handle on the situation. So Vin, one of our main characters in the first book, and also one of the most powerful Mistborns in the kingdom, has really come into her own over the past year in this story. But things go south pretty quickly when 3 armies show up outside of the kingdom walls, each one intent on invading the kingdom and taking it over for their own. So if this happens, there would no doubt be a lot of bloodshed and a lot of deaths. So the question is, how can Vin and her companions stop this from happening? Or can they even? So the story gets even more interesting when Vin encounters another Mistborn like herself. And this Mistborn is from one of the 3 armies who is outside the gates. Now, speaking of Mistborns and such, it bears repeating that the magic system in this world is called allomancy and involves ingesting different types of pure metals and then burning them by will in order to temporarily gain enhanced abilities such as increased speed, super hearing, enhanced strength, even the ability to pretty much fly through the air. Now, the majority of allomancers are called mistings and have the ability to burn only one metal and one metal only. But there's a rare special type of allomancer called a mistborn who has the capacity to burn all the metals. And these are indeed truly powerful individuals. In fact, they're nearly unstoppable. And our Vin is one of these mistborns. So she encounters the new strange Mistborn, and he kind of wins her over, and in the process causes her to question who she really is and whether her loyalties might be misplaced. So of course we have to wonder through all this whether this Mistborn is for real or whether he's only trying to get under her skin for military strategic purposes. Oh, it's also worth mentioning that this new Mistborn is quite insane. So often the second book in a trilogy leaves a lot to be desired, and my experience has shown that they're often disappointing. There was plenty of political intrigue and magic and action which made this an excellent sequel. So this was a massive stonker of a book, coming in about 780 pages or so, yet I tore through it pretty quickly, as there were plenty of twists and turns and heart-stopping action, new characters, and several new surprising revelations. So I'll probably do a full-on proper review of this on my channel in the coming days. But yeah, this is definitely a 5-star read for me, and I really loved The Well of Ascension, Book 2 in the Mistborn series. And the 5th book that I read in October thus far is entitled City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. So this is actually the 5th book in the Mortal Instruments series. Now, I told myself that I wanted to finish this series this year. So after this one, I only have 1 more to go. So I should be able to reach that goal. So again, it's difficult to say too much about this book without spoiling the series for those of you who might not have read it on the off chance. Now, I really did enjoy this book. I've enjoyed all of them, truth be told, though I do find the romance scenes a bit much. There's a lot of, oh, Jace, oh, Claire, oh, Jace, which gets a little tad repetitious at times. But that aside, there's still plenty of action and surprises to make this well worth the read. So, in this book, Jace is in some pretty serious trouble, both from the Clave and from the one who's holding him hostage against his will. And the person who's holding him hostage has a terrible plan which could result in the destruction of the earth. So now it's up to Clary and her Scooby gang to rescue Jace before the Clave does, and before the evil plan can be set into motion. So Clary and her friends decide there's only one possible way to rescue Jace, but doing so might very well cost one of them their lives. So let's see, what do we have with this story? There's plenty of demons, interactions with Seelies, revenge, there's the appearance of a real live angel, a visit to the Iron Sisters, werewolves, lots of blood, and definitely some major betrayal going on as well. So, you know, I have to hand it to Cassandra Clare. She really does an excellent job of writing shiver-worthy villains. You know, I'm really pleased at how multi-dimensional and well-rounded the main bad guy is in this book. You know, it's really refreshing, as so often the villains are these one-dimensional cardboard cutouts, which is really a pet peeve of mine. So I really love me a good villain. So overall, I enjoyed this book. I look forward to the epic battle which will no doubt occur in the last book in this series, the City of Heavenly Fire, I'm pretty sure. So I'll probably try and get to that one next month, but if not next month, then for sure in December. So I think I'm going to stop there for this month. I'll do part 2 of this wrap up probably close to the end of this month. So let me know in the comments what you're reading this month. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate it if you would. That way you get notified whenever I release new videos. And also, if you click the like button below, I'd really appreciate it, as that would really help me out. So that is it for now. As always, I thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Roger and out.